Hola a todos y bienvenidos a esta clase de español que hacemos por vídeo. Espero que estéis bien y que estéis listos para trabajar. Hoy vamos a aprender sobre el presente del indicativo. Vamos a aprender para qué lo usamos y cómo lo formamos. Si tienes alguna pregunta, por favor, mándame un mensaje en Microsoft Teams o mándame un correo electrónico, por favor. So, before we continue, whenever you see this symbol in this video, you should pause it and answer the questions or do the task explained on the slide. Okay? So, first of all, we'll talk about this in English to make sure that it's super clear and that we understand it. What do we use the present tense for? Okay, the present tense is used to describe habitual actions and routines, so things that you do regularly. For example, todos los días tomo mucha fruta. Every day I have a lot of fruit. Things happening now or in the near future. For example, estoy en casa. I'm at home. Mañana voy al cine. Tomorrow I'm going to the cinema. Not likely, but it is the present tense. And the third one is universal truths and facts, so things that are known to be true. So, for example, el cielo es azul. The sky is blue. La fruta es buena para la salud. Fruit is good for your health. Okay, so pause the video now and think of another example of each use of the present tense in English. Okay, hopefully you thought of some uses there of the present tense. Okay, so how do we form the present tense in Spanish? So first of all, we need the infinitive. Infinitives are the original form of the verb, and we can find them in a dictionary. So they are the form of the verb that are not in any tense. They're not past, present, or future. They're just nothing, okay? In Spanish, they either end in AR, ER, or IR. So for example, escuchar, beber, escribir. And in English, they begin with to. So to listen, to drink, to write. So hopefully you can see from that that they're not in a tense. So they're not in the past, the present, or the future. And they're not assigned to any person. So it's not I listen or you listen or we listen. It's just to listen. Okay? So they're called an infinitive because there are infinite, limitless amount of things that you can do to it. You can put them in a different tense, in a different person. Okay, but this is before we've done any of that, and it's in the original form. Okay, so pause the video now and think of some other examples of infinitives using the three that I've given you here. You can think of them in English to start with. Okay, so maybe you thought of, to walk, to think, to watch. Okay, so these are all verbs that are in the infinitive form. Okay. Once we have the infinitive, we remove the infinitive ending, so we are left with the stem. And if we look back, infinitives are either end in AR, ER, or IR. Okay, so here, escuchar, we are removing the infinitive ending, which is AR. So let's get rid of that. Okay, so then we just have listen. Okay, but we're not done yet because we need to put that into a person. And we're talking in the present tense, it needs to be I listen or you listen or we listen. Okay, so that's the next step. So we remove the infinitive ending, then we add the present tense ending. Okay, so to show you an example, so once we have the infinitive, we remove the infinitive ending. Okay, and we are left with the stem. Okay, so we've removed the AR from escuchar, then we're just left with escuch. This means nothing, okay, because it's just the stem. It's the thing that we add the endings to, okay? So we then add the present tense ending. So to show an example, escuch, Normally, to say I do something, we add an O to it, so it becomes escucho, which is I listen. Okay, the present tense ending depends on who is doing the action of the verb and whether the verb is AR, ER, or IR. Okay, and we have to learn these endings to be able to speak and write in the present tense. So AR verbs, the endings for I is O, you singular, as, he, she, or it, a, we, amos, you plural, so more than one person, ais, and then they, an. So those again, we have o, as, a, amos, ais, an. And er verbs, so for I, it's o again, you singular, es, he, she, or it, e, we, hemos, you plural, es, and they, en. So those are o, es, e, hemos, eis, en. Okay, for IR verbs, I'll just move my face out of the way there. Okay, so for I is, again, you guessed it, o, you singular, es, he, she, or it, e, okay, we is imos, okay, and then you plural is is, and they is en. Okay, so those again, o, es, e, imos, is, en. Okay, so you can say them after me now. So AR verbs, o, as, a, amos, ais, an. ER verbs, o, es, e, hemos, eis, en. And IR verbs, o, es, e, imos, is, en. Okay, so let's look at some examples now. Okay, so we take the verb escuchar, which we looked at before, means to listen. Okay, so I want to put this into the present tense. Okay, so I remove the AR from escuchar and I'm left with the stem, so escuch, which again doesn't mean anything until we put the endings onto it. Okay, so I listen, the ending is o, so escucho. You singular, listen, escuchas. He, she, or it listens, escucha. We listen, escuchamos. You plural listen, escucháis. And they listen, escuchan. Okay, so now you need to pause the video and can you do the same thing with hablar? So can you put hablar into the present tense? Okay, so pause the video and do that now. Okay, so hopefully you've managed to use escuchar to show you how to put hablar in the present tense. Okay, so you should have I talk is hablo, you singular talk is hablas, he, she, or it talks is habla, we talk hablamos, you plural talk habláis, and they talk hablan. Okay, so let's say them. You can say them after me now. Escucho, escuchas, escucha, escuchamos, escucháis, escuchan. Hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis, hablan. Muy bien. Okay, let's now move on to have a look at ER verbs. Okay, so ER verbs, it's the same rule. Okay, we start with the infinitive. Okay, so here we're going to use comer, which means to eat. We remove the infinitive ending but this time the infinitive ending is er. Okay, so we're left with the stem com. Okay, and on its own that doesn't mean anything until we add the present tense endings onto it. Okay, so I eat, como. You singular eat, comes. He, she, or it eats, come. We eat, comemos. You plural eat, comes. And they eat, comen. Okay, so using comer as your example, can you now put beber into the present tense, okay, which means to drink? So pause the video and put beber into the present tense. Okay, hopefully you've managed to use comer as your example, okay, and you've removed the infinitive ending from beber, so you've removed the er, and then you've added the er present tense endings onto the end of it, okay? So you've got I drink, bebo. You singular drink, bebes. He, she, or it drinks, bebe. We drink, bebemos. You plural drink, bebes. And they drink, beben. Okay, so you can say them after me now. Como, comes, come. Comemos, coméis, comen. Bebo, bebes, bebe. Bebemos, bebéis, beben. Fantastico. Okay, and finally, we'll have a look at IR verbs. Okay, so the example we've got now is escribir, which is to write. Okay, so we've got our infinitive, escribir, and we remove the infinitive ending. So we remove the IR, okay, and we're left with escrib, which again doesn't mean anything, it's just the stem, and we need to add the endings onto the end of that, okay? So I write is escribo. You singular write, escribes. He, she, or it writes, escribe. We write, escribimos. You plural write, escribís. They write, escriben. So now pause the video and see if you can put vivir, which means to live, into the present tense. So hopefully by now you have used escribir to help you put vivir into the present tense. So first of all, we remove the infinitive ending, so the ir, so we're left with viv, which doesn't mean anything. Okay, and then we add the ir present tense endings onto the end of it. So we get I live, vivo. You singular live, vives. He, she, or it lives, vive. We live, vivimos. You plural live, vivís. And they live, viven. So you can say them after me now. So escribo, escribes, escribe, escribimos, escribís, escriben. Vivo, vives, vive. Vivimos, vivís, viven. Excelente. Okay, so now, using what you've learned about present tense verbs, I want you to put the verb in brackets into the present tense, okay? So, let's have a look. So number one, you want to say, my brother and I, we always swim in the pool, okay? So I've given you the translation of that sentence, okay? Mi hermano y yo siempre, but I've left the verb in brackets in the infinitive form. So you need to change that into the present tense, okay? Mi hermano y yo siempre en la piscina. So what you would need to do is take the verb nadar, which means to swim, remove the infinitive ending, and then add the correct ending. So we look at our table below, okay, and we can see that it's an AR verb, okay, and it is we. So what you need to add is amos, okay? So now you can pause the video and try and have a go at changing all of the verbs in brackets into the present tense, changing it from the infinitive, removing the infinitive ending so you're left with the stem, and then adding the correct present tense ending depending on what person of the verb it is and what type of verb it is, AR, ER, or IR. So give yourself about 5 minutes to do that, and then come back here to see the answers. So hopefully you paused the video and you had a go at changing all of these verbs in brackets from the infinitive. You remove the infinitive ending, okay, and then you were left with the stem, and then onto the end of the stem you added the correct present tense ending depending on who was doing the verb and what type of verb it was. So let's have a look at the answers now. Okay, so my brother and I, we always swim in the pool. Mi hermano y yo siempre nadamos en la piscina. Okay. Number 2, my dad reads the newspaper every day. Mi padre lee el periódico todos los días. So the infinitive was leer. We removed the er and we added e. That one can look a bit strange, but it's pronounced leye because we pronounce every letter in Spanish individually. Number 3, my brothers, they visit a castle. Mis hermanos visitan un castillo. So there's a mistake there that I'll just change. Visitan un castillo. Okay, because the verb was visitar and it's they visit, so we removed the AR and added AN because it's they. Okay, I never buy fruit. Nunca compro fruta. My mom, she always drinks lemonade. Mi madre siempre bebe limonada. Do you escucháis música pop? Okay, you all is you plural. Number 7, do you eat chicken? Comes pollo? And number 8, Juan and Maria, they live by the coast. Juan y María viven cerca de la costa. Okay, so to finish with, answer these questions. What is an infinitive? What is the stem? What are the present tense endings? So, pause the video and answer those questions. First of all, what is an infinitive? The infinitive is the original form of the verb that you can find in a dictionary. They end in AR, ER, or IR in Spanish, and in English they start with 2. What is the stem? The stem is what you are left with when you remove the 2-letter infinitive ending from the infinitive. Escuchar is the infinitive, escuch is the stem. And then what are the present tense endings? These are what we add to the stem to tell us who or what is doing the action of the verb. Okay, and there they are there. Just to recap, we have o, as, a, amos, ais, an, and o, es, e, hemos, eis, en. O, es, e, imos. O, es, o, es, imos, is, en. Okay, so now what you're going to do, now you've had the introduction to the present tense, okay, on Teams, I've given you the Quizlet set, present tense regular verbs. So if you complete all of those Quizlet activities, okay, and I've also attached a sheet on Teams, which is the AR verbs practice. Okay, so do as much as you can in the 50 minutes that you have. Any questions? If you need any help, feel free to put something in the chat or send me an email. Okay, buena suerte, muchas gracias y adiós, chicos.